Dialogue now. Because I see a time, doors are knocked, calls are made. People who are heady are saying we have come down, but these people are not willing to dialogue again. Please, redeeming the time, for the days are evil. Dialogue now. Dialogue now. I repeat it again. I'm not an evil man, but I'm telling you what I'm shown in the spirit. What? I'm seeing great people, important people in this nation coming together and saying, now, okay, we want to sit on the table, let us talk. But the people you want to talk with are saying, it's too late. Please, dialogue now. The days ahead are evil. Dialogue now. This is not a cry of a baby. It's a cry of an adult. I repeat it again. Dialogue now. Please. Every authority. There come a time when a revolution is about to take place. The power of gun, bombs, and bullets cannot hold an ideology. Please, dialogue now. This is not the time of, I have bullet, I have gun, I have bomb. This has nothing to do with bullet and bomb. If you know what I'm seeing in the realm of the spirit, everyone in federal authority should take the Biafra agitation serious. If you are once a founding father of this nation, sit down around the table and listen to your children. Dialogue now. This is not the time to arrest anybody. It's the time to hear the cry of the people. Dialogue now. Because it's going to be the last resultant solution at the end. But when you are asking, when the king comes down from his throne and he's saying, I'm ready to talk, and everybody is throwing stone at you, then you will know that it is important to dialogue with honor and prestige and go out, and there is peace in the land.
Nigeria, on a daily basis, witness the impunity which is so-called Fulani herdsmen extremists who share an ethnic and religious identity with President Buhari and the Fulani elite, which now dominates all key institutions in Nigeria.
To open an investigation specifically into the wide-scale and systematic killing of the civilian population, and most notably targeting the indigenous people of Biafra.
Clear that now we've put the Biafran issue on the radar screen of the government, of the Biden administration, of Congress.
Ongoing and wide-scale systematic killing of the civilian population, and again, specifically targeting the IPOB.
Of weapons being used against Biafrans, but affirmatively supporting an effort to have an independence referendum organized and conducted by the United Nations, as was done in South Sudan.
They formally open an investigation and look into what we are identifying as a genocide that's being committed by the Nigerian government and extremist Fulanis against the indigenous people of Biafra.
There's been enough of an experience since 1960 to suggest there simply is not a way, given the history of division between the Fulani and the Biafrans, to think that they can coexist under a single sovereign roof.
Good evening, fellow Biafrans, from wherever you are. My name is Mazi Uche, a European representative of the government in exile. Welcome to this evening's edition of the State of the Nation address from the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile. Towards the end of this program, we are going to have the question and the answer section, of which we are going to take the questions from the Twitter space. So please prepare your questions while the Prime Minister would be ready to take on those questions. Now I would introduce the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile in the name of Mazi Simon Ekpa. Welcome, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, fellow Biafrans. Good evening, lovers of freedom. Good evening, the friends of Biafrans all over the world that have seated this evening to listen to the State of the Union address by the Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, officially the United States of Biafra. I welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen of the press, to this evening historic speech. We will be addressing a lot of issues, especially the new face of the Biafra liberation as we prepare to go to the poll for the Biafra self-referendum, which is starting on the 1st of February 2024. This evening's speech by my humble self will be focused on the evolution of freedom and human rights. And I will be making references to different heroes and heroines of this world. The evolution of freedom and human rights. On behalf of the Biafra government in exile, I appreciate Biafrans for their unwavering support so far. I also call on Biafrans world over to stand firm and continue to stand with the Biafra government, both in the exile and in the de facto government of the homeland, as we embark on a next phase of our liberation, which is self-referendum. I want to remind us today, however, how our heroes and heroines of the past changed our world today, starting from as far back as 1380, over 630 years. Some of us who may be very conversant about freedom fighting may have come across a very famous speech made by John Ball titled, "All Men by Nature Were Created Alike. Evolution of Freedom." In May 1381, Wycliffe priest called John Ball addressed a group of rebelling laborers who would later take part in the so then called peasant revolt, a revolt that was partly caused by the introduction of the 1380 tax. In his great speech, Ball argued that all men by nature were created alike, that the servitude of agricultural workers continued what he called an unjust oppression. He argued they serve to cast off the yoke of bondage and they recover liberty. they should fight for equality in liberty and battle against degree, nobility, and class. It is these words that are often cited as the inspiration for the June 1381 revolt led by Wat Tyler. Today, these ideas may sound pretty normal to us and many of you 21st century humans. But the truth is that this speech was made over 630 years ago, when it was considered very dangerous to even think that such thing should be said by anyone, let alone preach it. That's why this speech is very important in freedom fighting. Sadly, both Ball and Taylor were executed for this word as traitors for their egalitarian views. They were killed because their pro-socialist and progressive belief were seen as a threat 630 years ago. They saw them and their speeches as a threat to the established order of the society. Still, their actions and their words live on. Their word that was considered dangerous, that led to their death, has become part of human rights laws that we all enjoy today, or they die for it. It is not because they were killed, but indeed their views has become part of international laws for a progressive world. This would say, I would say, was a foundation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that all men are equal, but Ball and Tyler died for saying and advocating for it. That is evolution of freedom and human rights. What was abolished, what was a dangerous thing 630 years ago, has become your law today, because somebody stood and said it. That's why, as a prime minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, it does not matter what you call me today. What matters to me is what you call me after 10 years, when I have liberated my people. This is the reason many countries like Finland, who are well advanced, can't hand Simon Ekpa over to any terrorist country, like Nigeria, for standing firm, fighting and defending his people, and I stand to be challenged anywhere. Finland is living in the future. It's a fact. My fellow Biafrans, let me remind you that there is another great speech called "Let Us Make Reparation to Africa." Reparation is today word that many human rights activists, many freedom fighters are preaching freely. Including in the British Empire, citing inhuman practices as an effusion of human blood. Then, the advocacy of Wilberforce was so dangerous, become a threat to the British Empire. 2 years before Wilberforce made the speech, 132 African slaves were thrown into the sea from a slave ship. Hence, the reference to human blood. He criticized the use of violence and tyranny among seamen and merchants towards slaves, and cited his belief in the commandment, "Thou shalt not murder," as the source of his abolitionist belief. Wilberforce also argued, "Thou shalt do no murder," as the source of his abolitionist belief. He argued that such cruel trade could not possibly be regulated or conducted in a human way. Total abolition is the only possible cure, he argued. This speech made by Wilberforce made any plea of ignorance on the part of his fellow MPs at the House of Commons of the United Kingdom. Made them untenable. The callousness of the slave trade was revealed for all to see for the very first time. The campaign of Wilberforce and others to bring to an end to slavery was a very hard fight. They fought it. This speech was a significant moment in bringing about the British West Indies in 1807 and the Slavery Abolition Act in 1833, which abolished slavery throughout the British Empire. This is evolution of freedom. I want you to pay attention to today's State of the Union, where we are making history the way it is, to make sure we save our people from the hand of the Nigeria Islamic State. We will make a very tough decisions as we move on from today going forward. This decision will later become history. So I'm making references to the other heroes and heroines of this world, who at the time of their own freedom fighting, everything they did became abominable, only for what they did to become the law that guides the universe today. It is the evolution of freedom fighting and freedom. It is important to educate our people while we are taking the steps of the Biafra government. The Biafra government are taking the step it's taking today, is that we have figured out what will work for us against Nigeria. It is also very important to educate our people how history are made as we go to the poll for our self-referendum, because they continue to ask, is US supporting you? Is America supporting you? Do you have a European Union observers? And I have told them we don't need any of those observers. We are conducting this referendum by ourselves, and we are going to declare Biafra, defend it with every mechanism that we have, and it will go down in history as Biafra used every mechanism to liberate themselves from Nigeria Islamic State. In the United States, a woman had no right to vote in an election until a woman called Susan Anthony fought for it. Somebody somewhere have to always stood up and fight. Somebody somewhere had always stood up to fight before change could happen. That is exactly what the Prime Minister of Biafra Republic Government in Exile, Simon Ekpa, and the entire cabinet and the entire government in exile are doing today. Somebody somewhere have to start this fight, and it will be successful at the end of the day. When you remain resolute and never change your principle according to who you meet. The question Susan Anthony asked in one of Her famous speech was, "Are women person?" Susan Anthony was an American suffragette and a co-founder of the National Women Suffrage Association, a group that fought for women's right to vote in the United States. In 1872, she became the first American woman to vote in an election. Listen, just 1872, women didn't have the right to vote in America. 1872. This woman took it upon herself to fight and liberated women from the shackles of the American system that made them lesser human. She became the first American woman to vote in an election, albeit illegally. She was charged in January of 1873 for voting without a lawful right to vote. Though she wasn't allowed to speak, even to defend herself in the court. She made this speech of, "Are women person?" in the month running up to her trial. In the speech, she argued that in voting, she was simply exercising her right, citizens' right. Quoting the U.S. Constitution, she pointed out that it was not the white male citizens that formed the Union of the States of America, but we, the people, and that as a person, she deserved the right to participate in democracy. Are women person? She famously asked. If so, she then argued, they are citizens of the United States. Why then should they not have the right to vote? I want you to listen to understand the evolution of freedom. Before she did it, nobody ever stood up to fight for women's rights to vote in the United States. She took it upon herself. That she campaigned for. She also argued that black people should have right to vote, since they also are persons and choose U.S. citizens. This idea of personhood may seem very simple, but Susan Anthony argument and voting and kicking against the freedom of Biafra, equality before the law, was her radical aspiration. Despite her cogent argument, she was found guilty. She was found guilty for rising up against the system of $100. You know what is $100 as far back as 1870 something? $100. That should be millions of dollars today. She refused to pay that fine and continued to campaign voraciously for female suffrage, a battle that was eventually won in 1919. From 1870 something to 1919, she won the battle against the women exclusion in the United States democracy. Today, many Biafrans in the United States, many Biafrans of Nigeria, because the Biafrans in the United States are supporting what we're doing today. Many women from Biafra of Nigeria are enjoying the voting right in America, but a woman like you fought for it. My respect to those Biafran women who are deeply involved in the Biafra government. You are making history as part of the evolution of freedom for a better society. Suzanne Best quote, I declare to you that women must not depend on the protection of man, but must freedom, and it is my right to fight and protect my people, and that I will do until our freedom is achieved. While in Africa today, many countries in Africa are against same-sex marriage. I want you to understand the evolution of freedom because of our culture in Africa. But let me remind you that America was there centuries ago. Where Africa is today, America was there centuries ago. And let me also make it very clear, I am not advocating for same-sex marriage. I am only taking you back to the history and the evolution of freedom. This, what American government, including the President of America, is supporting today. Of course, not Donald Trump. But those, Obama, Biden, and co, supporting today was abomination in America centuries ago. A man called Oscar Wilde, in his speech, Love that dare not speak its name. This renewed speech by Oscar Wilde, made during his trial for gross indecency with other male person. This is perhaps one of the most emotional and poignant speech ever made. In it, Wilde Oscar described his love for Lord Alfred Douglas as such a great affection of an elder man for a young man. Choose the love that dare not speak its name. He described his love as beautiful, fine, and noblest form of affection. But Wilde Oscar explained the word does not understand it. He explained that the world back then does not understand it. Indeed, they mock his love as unnatural and unlawful. But Wilde's speech proved just the opposite, that there is, in fact, nothing like unnatural about it. After the speech, the essayist Max Weber told a friend that Oscar's speech was simply wonderful and carried the whole court right away, quite tremendous burst of applause. But in all the applauses given to Wilde, it was not enough. A second trial, Wilde was sentenced to 2 years in prison with hard labor for nothing other than his attraction to a member of the same sex. It was this time in prison that led to his tragic death. He died in prison a few years later. But today, the present and the past president of the United States of America are in the forefront, championing same-sex marriage, that somebody was sentenced to death and the person 2 years with hard labor and the person died in prison. Obama, Biden, and many of them in the United States today, leaders, are the one championing same-sex marriage. It has become law and legal, but someone in the name of Oscar Wilde died for it. Fellow Biafrans, evolution of freedom. You make history and make history happen. That is what Simon Ekpa, under the Biafra Republic government in exile, is doing. That history is what I and the entire cabinet and the supporters and sponsors are making today. As the fight for equality of women continued as far back as 1900, one of the leading feminist activists called Pankhurst incited a meeting to rebellion. Pankhurst was quoted by Nelson Mandela as supporting their militancy rebellion against apartheid. She said in a meeting, "I incite this meeting to rebellion." This particular stand by Emmeline Pankhurst is similar to a radical feminist message, that of militant protest and action. In her speech, she was made and become the leader of this Women's Social and Political Union. She herself set that particular union up in October 1912. And it stirred up the passion of all who heard it. Amongst other things, Pankhurst Welcome back. We apologize for that interruption in the stream. As the fight for equality of women continued from 1900, one of the leading feminist activists called Pankhurst incited a meeting to rebellion. This speech, though not quite a famous one in freedom fighting, not to be compared to a very popular one, Death of Freedom. The speech was made to the Women's Social and Political Union, which Emmeline Pankhurst herself set up in October 1912, and stirred up the passion of all those who heard it. Amongst other things, Pankhurst urged her supporters to be militant in their own way and to do whatever they can to express their militancy. Protests in the House of Commons, smash windows and express your anger and attack the sacred idol of property. She explained that because the militancy of Baptists had helped to bring about change back then, the suffragette must also adopt radical tactics of civil disobedience. Her last word, though, and perhaps the most powerful one, to rapturous applause and cheers in the auditorium, Pankhurst finished by exclaiming, "I incite this meeting to rebellion," and addressing the movement, "Take me if you dare, but this isn't just a foolhardy rhetoric." Many suffragettes spent time in prison for their actions, and a larger number of them went on hunger strike whilst behind bars. So, whatever the government does to her, Pankhurst declared, "You will not keep me in the prison," making her speech more than just a radical call to arms, but an open defiance of the government oppression. This defiance went on for 2 more years until the outbreak of World War I, when many suffrage women and the movement dedicated themselves toward the war effort. It was at that end of the war, in 1918, that the first women from 8.4 million of them got the vote in the United States, in the United Kingdom. I want you people to understand the evolution of freedom that all of you enjoy today, that people paid price. Many, including the government, did not believe in the vision. And I call them the visionary leaders of this world. Every freedom fighter is a visionary leader. Vision carriers. We see tomorrow. We see years to come. And after we are gone, our world will become law to those that are still alive. That is exactly the way it is. Everything we do today will become your law, because we see the future that the idiotic and the buffoon leaders of today could not see. Corrupt leaders who only interested in their selfish interests, who only interest and nothing else. So we see beyond human comprehension. Just like today, we build and unveil Biafra army because we know that in this 2024, Nigeria will be at war. The Islamists will be everywhere killing Nigerians. Today, only in Biafra land that they are not killing. Our security challenges in Biafra is state-sponsored, state agent, and state police and military in uniform. These are the security challenges that Biafra people are facing today. Not terrorists from Sahel. They don't dare to come. We control our territory. And we deal with them whenever we want. Now our focus is on the legitimization of Nigeria. a vision that Simon Ekpa and the Biafra government saw, including Mazen Ambikano, saw it many years ago. These are visionary leaders that carries vision and want to use it to change their life or the life of their people before it is late. Evolution of freedom. The evolution of freedom, and someone must take the lead. The Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic government in exile is taking that bullet today. And I will take the bullet for Biafra all the way to Biafra freedom and on your behalf. I want us to look at Gandhi. One of the most famous and important speech of Gandhi is Quit India. Quit India. It played a central role in the Quit India movement, which helped to gain India independence from Britain. In the speech, Gandhi reinforced his commitment to pacifism and nonviolence. A nonviolent soldier of freedom will covet nothing for himself. He fights only for the freedom of his country. He also declared that once independence has been won, it will be the people of India to decide democratically who rule their country. He expressed his wish for equal freedom for all and Indian independence, but he encouraged his supporters not to hate the British people, only to hate British imperialism. He went on to say, we must therefore purge ourselves of hatred, because hatred can never bring about justice. Instead, the Indian independence movement must be a friend to the British, whilst also fighting for the freedom of their country. Only then will their is 1922 trial. Trial. people. He described the struggle of his countrymen for independence as one of tears, fire, and blood. This struggle Lumumba went on should make them profoundly proud, because it was a noble and just struggle that put an end to the humiliating bondage imposed on us by force, just like the Biafran people are going through it today. His countrymen had suffered. They were insulted, just like the Biafran people, simply because of the color of their skin. They were, as he said, treated as second-class citizens, just like the Biafra people can never be president in Nigeria. Living in tumble-down straw huts, whilst the white Europeans live in magnificent houses in the Congo's city. But all of this had passed. The Congo regained its independence, and in that freedom, Lumumba was determined to show the world what the black man can do, just like many of us in Biafra liberation are saying today. Their country would be the center of radiance of the whole of Africa. They would establish new just laws, put an end to discrimination, and strive for a piece of courage and goodwill. Lumumba plan constituted a truly inspiring, hopeful vision. But sadly, a year after Congo's independence, Lumumba was killed by troop loyal to the army chief, and his dream for Congo never become reality. Those of you in Biafra land that are waiting to become the Congo Army Congo, or Congo, or those army of Congo in Biafra land, you will be eliminated in due time by the true patriotic forces. You will never have a place in Biafra land. The Congo army will never have a place in Biafra land after independence of Biafra has been restored. Fellow Biafrans, I can go on and on and on, making references to the evolution of freedom, how men and the women shaping the world that we all enjoy today by their sacrifice and selfless services to their people. Of course, I cannot end this great speech today and address to the Biafra people as we are making progress without making reference to Martin Luther King Jr. in his speech, I Have a Dream. King started by describing the miracles of the segregation of the chains of discrimination under which African American has suffered for so many years, despite their supposed emancipation. He refers to the Declaration of Independence as a bad check, as far as black people were concerned, in that their unalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness had never been upheld. But Martin Luther King saw hope after this summer of the Negro legitimate discontent. There would be an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. And unless this came about, the whirlwind of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nation. And I am borrowing from King that Biafra Liberation Army, Biafra resistance fighters, as long as Biafra continue to suffer under Nigeria, we will continue to revolt, and there will never be peace in Nigeria until Biafra exit. We will make sure that the war is all over Nigeria for the liberation and the freedom of our people, and of course, for the self-defense of our people, we are going to make sure that every security apparatus in Nigeria will be decimated in time. That's where the attack against Biafra are being planned. So allow us to go, or you will be given hell. King also mentioned and said, but in urging revolution like Gandhi, King urged against violence and hate. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. After all, the freedom of white people is inextricably bound to our freedom, he said. It is then that King described his dream, a dream that is deeply rooted in the American dream, that one day we will recognize that all men are created equal. Now, referring to the first John Ball, that all men are alike. After decade, many years, King Martin Luther King made a reference to that. The hope that one day sons of former slave and sons of former slave owner will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. It is a dream that is rooted in love, in compassion for the whole of mankind, a dream of equality and brotherhood. King ended his speech with the famous exclamation, "Let freedom ring." And indeed, freedom did ring in 1964. The Civil Rights Act was passed, and in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, which finally gave federal agencies effective power to enforce the rights of Black Americans. It is where it is wearing for, if it is wearing for King, and if it wearing for the great speech in Washington, perhaps those acts would never have become a reality. Today, they left the problem and start tackling sit at home. But I have this to tell the enablers in Biafra land that are releasing speeches and press release against the Biafra sit at home. True peace is not measured by the absence of tension emanating from sit at home. But peace in Biafra land will be measured by the presence of justice, and where there is no justice, there is no peace. The evolution of freedom. I want to refrain myself and repeat what I said for easy understanding. My message to Nigeria Islamic State today: they left the problem they created and start tackling Biafra sit at home. But I will tell them this, to those enablers, that for you to have peace and to measure the peace, whether in Biafra territory or other parts of Nigeria, peace cannot be measured by the absence of tensions emanating from sit-at-home order. But peace will only be measured by the presence of justice. And where there is no justice, there is no peace. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still illegally being detained. It is a fact. Court has freed him. While Boko Haram are being recruited into the Nigerian army, Biafrans are being abducted, enforcing their disappearance every day. And of course, we will never lay down our arms until Biafra is achieved. Fellow Biafrans, I want you to understand that the government in exile is making history, and nothing is going to stop the Biafra freedom from coming. we know and have the key. Nelson Mandela, in one of his speech, an ideal for which I am prepared to die, at the end of his trial in 1964, Nelson Mandela took to the podium to explain the ANC reason for abandoning Gandhi principles of non-violence to their freedom, and instead adopting the militant method of sabotage against property, which the activist Emmeline Pankhurst had also encouraged. At that time, Mandela explained that his decision to support militant aggression was not made through recklessness or from any love for violence. Instead, it was the result of a calm and sober assessment of the political situation that has risen after many years of tyranny, exploitation, oppression of many people by the whites. Non-violent action had not worked and had often ended in the death of hundreds of protesters, just like Nigeria are doing to Biafra today. Choose. He argued in sabotage and hostility. The most powerful part of the speech of Mandela, though, came to the end. At the end, in his closing speech, Mandela said his lifelong commitment to the African struggle. I have cherished the ideal of democracy and a free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it is need be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Apparently, as he delivered this final speech, Mandela started staring at the judge directly in the eye. Happily, unlike Martin Luther King Jr., who adopted the approach of Gandhi of nonviolence, Mandela wasn't killed for his belief, and indeed, he became the president of South Africa in 1994. Mandela died in 2013 from a respiratory infection, though his legacy lives on. While Mandela's funeral was ongoing, Obama was there, present. Obama also quoted the speech in a tribute to Mandela in Johannesburg. While Obama was making the speech, Mandela was still in the list as a terrorist by the CIA. Whether they forgot to remove his name from the terrorist list or not, the facts are there that while Obama was giving eulogy to Mandela, he was still listed as a terrorist in the United States. Evolution of freedom. Evolution. Today, everybody is taking Mandela as a legend, which he is and was. Fellow Biafran, I want to make sure that the history we are making today, that you know the foundation of the actions, decisions we are taking today to liberate you. Che Guevara is a Cuban. He's a Cuban revolutionary. He was captured and executed on the order of the Bolivian president in 1967. A few days later, Fidel Castro made a speech in honor of his close friend and comrade. Castro described Che as an incomparable soldier and an incomparable leader who was both capable and courageous. He was a person of visionary intelligence and a broad culture. 2, but a man of ideas and a man of action. His death is, of course, a loss. But as Castro explained, the artist may die, but what will surely never die is the art to which he has dedicated his life. Ojukwu started Biafra. Ojukwu is no more. Biafra is here. Philip Effiong started Biafra. Philip Effiong is no more. Biafra is here. Many heroes of Biafra who started Biafra, they are all gone. But Biafra is here. How truth is this? The revolutionary always has that famous line in the film V for Vendetta. Beneath this mask, there is an idea. Mr. Greedy and the idea are bulletproof. Fidel Castro went on to say that causes the government today, kidnapping Mazi Nnamdi Kanu doesn't mean that Biafra have ended. But you boasted when you rendition him to Nigeria, how you have ended Biafra. You boasted. In fact, after all, Che was not just a great general. He was also a great thinker. And by killing him, they have not eliminated his ideas. Eliminate his ideas. Eliminate has indeed become a socialist icon for movement worldwide. And I am reading about him today. And I am sure there are very few people who have never come across a Che Guevara t-shirt or poster at some point in their lives. It seems then that ideas really are bulletproof, especially radical ones. The evolution of freedom. My message to the Nigeria representative in the Southeast and South-South, otherwise known as Biafra territory today, is that you may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know the evolution of freedom fighting that changes the world for better. Some people today tell us about non-violent agitation as the only way. And I ask them, who is violent? Is it the Biafra people that were carrying flags and walking on the street, or the Nigeria security agents that were shooting and killing them? Who is the one that is what
Nigeria, if they think that they can cower people, if they think they can force people to be coerced into a religion which is not theirs, then they are clearly mistaken. We are asking for peace. We are asking for people to get together. We are asking for everybody who loves Nigeria, who is associated with our country, to please prevail upon terrorism in Nigeria so we can bring it to an end. That is why a multitude of Nigerians are gathered here today. Those of us in the UK are determined to work with the government for peace. We are determined to work with the international community for peace. But one thing we cannot stomach is a repeat of 1966. What is happening today in Nigeria was the reason why Nigeria fought a bitter civil war for 3 years between 67 and 1970. If this continues, there will be another civil war in Nigeria. And this time around, no place will be safe in Nigeria. This time around, nobody will be safe in Nigeria. So it is imperative that everybody who has the interest of the country at heart acts now and immediately to stop this nonsense from continuing.
So get shooting. Those carrying Nigeria flag were murdered in Go. Fellow Biafrans, during the massacre led by Wazirike, they were not armed, but Nigeria Islamic State killed them without justification. Many Mossad members were killed and thrown in the ocean, thrown in the river. Nobody has been held responsible for that. And finally, they forced Wazirike to quit the struggle. And Wazirike joined Nigeria kingmakers in the southeast. Today, every election, he will have his opinion. The IPOB, led by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, our leader, IPOB was also a splinter group from Mossad after Wazirike was compelled by the Islamic State to quit Biafra struggle and become one of the kingmakers in the southeast. The movement of IPOB started in 2013. Thousands of IPOB members has been killed and murdered in cold blood, and many bodies were thrown in the river. Obibo massacre was very fresh in our memory, and we are coming to revenge Obibo massacre. It's going to happen very soon. The revenge of Obibo massacre IPOB, thousands were killed. They kidnapped him from Kenya and renditioned him to Nigeria. And they have denied him every right under Nigeria. They were not violent. They did not carry arms. They only carried flag. Until today, Nigeria has violated every court order, including the ultimatum from the United Nations. And of course, out of fear, the defunct leadership he left, called the DOS, presently IPOB Nigeria, joined Nigerian politicians against genuine agitators and become IPOB Nigeria. Today, every Biafra movement has collapsed into Biafra government in exile. Both in the homeland and in exile, Nigeria has recruited Islamic State fighters into their military, police, and other forces to continue the holy war of Islam against indigenous people, and Biafra government in exile can't sit back and watch Nigeria state kill Biafra unchallenged. Therefore, the government which uses force to support its rules teaches the oppressed to use force to oppose it. We will continue to justify our decision to engage in sabotaging and hostility against terrorists and with equal opportunity. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. For that reason, our approach to Biafra freedom is multidimensional. It is not just hostility against Nigeria terrorist state, but we also have adopted a democratic process by embarking on self-referendum, which will be conducted through electronic voting. We understand the challenges of this approach, especially when our people in the rural area have no electricity and internet. We, however, expected to have a reasonable number of votes of Biafra extraction across the globe. The Biafra self-referendum will start on the 1st of February 2024, and there will be 3 stages to this self-referendum. The stage 3 will run through to our convention in Finland later this year. We'll continue to demand the withdrawal of the Nigeria terrorist troop from police to army to any Nigeria troop from Biafra territory, as it has been proven beyond reasonable doubt their involvement in terrorism and insecurity in our land. Today, terrorists kidnapped school pupils in the Ekiti community. In Yoruba land, we have secured Biafra land, and the insecurity we have are state-sponsored, being orchestrated by the Nigeria army and the terrorist police. They are involved in kidnapping, raping, killing of women and children, and burning of our marketplaces, homes, and businesses. For the self-referendum that will start on the 1st of February, we hereby declare sit-at-home civil disobedience to create awareness that will enable Biafrans to vote while in their comfort homes. So, fellow Biafrans, on the 1st of February, which is Thursday, entire Biafra land will be locked down. We have communicated all bishops in Biafra territory. We have communicated all officials by mail who reside in Biafra territory. Anyone who violates the order of Biafra government will have him or herself to blame. It is now a revolutionary phase of the Biafra liberation, and Biafra government remain the only legitimate government of the Biafra people, and Biafra people are loyal to. And Biafra government also has a legitimate de facto government chosen by the people of Biafra and not the Nigeria state. Our state government are very active. We have 40 active United States of Biafra. We have 40 active state administrators, otherwise called governors of these 40 states. These 40 states have administrators, state executives that are running the affair of the de facto government of Biafra.
Many. Our people are lame. They are weak. I am struggling to count how many men there are in Biafra land. There are no more men left. Weak, docile, and imbecilic. Weak. I don't know how we can take such people to war. I don't know how we can take men who are not men into battle and win. I am ashamed. Very, very ashamed. Nonetheless, we must preach this very gospel because man did not ask us to come. Chukwa Biama in heaven mandated that we should come. If not, that I was called to do this very work, I will not speak to any of you anymore. But Chukwa Biama said this very gospel must be preached, and we must preach it. I have prayed since yesterday up until now. My request is very simple. The same prayer I made in secret, I will make out here in the open. Chukwa Biama Biko. Since it is your intention that your kingdom will be restored upon this very earth, I need men. I need men. I did not say boys. I said I need men. Those of them that you created to restore your kingdom, they should come forward now, not tomorrow,
Yes,
not next year.
We
Chukwa Biama.
have one question
You must bring them now. I did not say tomorrow.
This way. After the referendum,
because the insult is too.
Your freedom is in your hand. Of those that do not believe in what we're doing.
Thank you very much. The reason for this historic references is for you to understand that you make your history. Nobody makes the history for you. So after the self-referendum, we gather in Finland from all over the world. And in Finland, we will use the outcome of the referendum to declare the restoration of independent state of Biafra. And of course, after that, we will make sure that no presence of Nigeria will be allowed in Biafra territory. The sabotage will be taken to the highest level. We will make sure there is no government house under Nigeria will be staying in Biafra territory. So it is then a declaration of independent state of Biafra by declaring the restoration of Biafra, and then we begin to delegitimize Nigeria by making sure that no presence of Nigeria government in Biafra will be allowed. And by the activities and the hostilities of Biafra against Nigeria will bring the international community into what is going to be happening going forward in Nigeria. So that's where we're going. So what the fact is that after the declaration, a why of the hostility, we will take it to the next level, and that will create the room for the international community to pave it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Prime Minister. The response to that question has been addressed, which is the delegitimization of the Nigerian government from Biafra territory. We go further to take more questions. Your questions through the chat. We are looking out for questions here. Whatever it is you want to get clarifications from the Prime Minister, this is the chance to do that. So please go ahead and ask a question. And we have one question here. I would love to ask, why if the Nigerian government fights the link on that very day?
The reason why we have a long time, is to make sure that there will be no much disenfranchisement of the Biafra people. So I don't think that the system we are going to use, Nigeria government will be able to fight those links. So, but if they do, we have many alternatives, and we hope that it doesn't happen like that. And we are very sure of this link we are using. So everybody should understand that whatever the decision the government of Biafra has taken, we have considered the interest of the Biafra and considered also the process that we are following. And we are very, very sure that this particular process is not going to be sabotaged by Nigeria government. We have many options to take if any problem. And remember, after the stage 1 of the voting, which will end sometime in May, we will reassess what we have done, where we need to make amendments, and then we'll go to the second stage of voting. So the voting is stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Another question goes, after redeclaration in Finland, will Nigeria still have rights to come into Biafra territory?
It depends on our firepower. Our target and agenda is to make sure that before then, we will be taking up on all these barracks where these terrorists are coming and planning the attack against our people. And remember, it remains a guerrilla warfare, which will be taken to the maximum level. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that response. We have another question here. What happens to Biafrans in regards to their money in the Nigerian bank accounts after the declaration?
We are working on the Biafra Federal Reserve. And of course, the declaration, as you all know, is not a total declaration that we are going to cut everything off from Nigeria. But Biafra government is working on a Federal Reserve. We are also working on the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency of the Biafra. And hopefully by then, our digital currency should be ready. And Biafrans may decide to get their wealth and money and convert them to Biafra currency, Biafra coin, digital currency, and it will be safe.
Thank you very much. The next question goes like this. Concerning the elderly, how do we get them to vote?
The elderly, we are having what we call the electoral officers, many parts of Biafra, and those elders will be attended to. Many of them, we will try as much as possible to see that many elders, especially in the rural area, will be attended to by the electoral officers. And that particular mechanism and measure has been discussed and assessed. And so going into the first 3 weeks or few weeks of the voting, we'll be able to know actually the inflow of votes, and then we will re-strategize on how to effectively capture those elders in the rural area. But of course, above all, the most important thing is that those of you who have elderly people in your families can also help in making sure that they participate in the voting by sharing the link, getting their information, and asking them what is their opinion on Biafra. If they say that they are voting for Biafra, you can help them to make that particular process. But what we are doing now is what we believe works for us as a government. So it is we that design what works for us based on the situation on ground. And because Nigeria is a very fragile state, we cannot go, physically and start voting in Biafra land because of the fragile state of Nigeria, and because Nigeria, as everybody knows, is a terrorist state that doesn't understand anything rule of law. That does not respect the right that they also are signatory to, especially right of association, right to self-determination, and all that. That doesn't respect those laws. So we have adopted this particular measure, which we believe will work for us. And anybody that is not very happy, we don't care. If the United Nations is not happy with the outcome of the result, then they should step forward and organize a new referendum for Biafra people, which I believe we will be very happy to participate in those referendums. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. I think we will take this as the last question. This is in regards to the names that should be used while voting. So this person is asking, made changes to my name / I have my father's name as my surname. My family bears my grandfather's names. Can I add them during the referendum?
You can answer your name during the referendum. So long as you are a Biafran, use whatever name you have and your legal name during the voting. So it doesn't matter. So long as you are a Biafran, your vote will count. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. That will be all from here.
Thank you very much, audience. As we'll bring this particular session to an end, I want to remind everyone to remain resolute. And above all, I will make a very special announcement, for some changes that we have in the government of Biafra Republic Government in Exile. Effective from today, especially those of you in the United States, effective from today, we have an acting American rep in the name of pharmacist Diana Eme. Pharmacist Diana Eme is now the American rep, the new acting American rep, while Dr. Agie has been assigned to a different, have given a different assignment in the government. So from today, those of you in the United States, give your support to her. Make sure you work closely with her. Our target is to make sure that we capture the entire 50 states of the United States. We want to have representatives, want to have admin in those states. So if you reside in the United States and your state is not yet part of the government, or that you don't have the admin in your state, please contact the Biafra government, contact anybody or the media team who will give you contact to Pharmacist Diana. Pharmacist Diana will be the rep of the North and South America, including Canada. Thank you, Biafra people. And on this note, I say, may God bless you. May God bless the United States of Biafra. May God bless the Liberation Army. May God bless the Biafra resistance fighters. May God bless the Biafra Navy. May God bless all other forces, all other armed group, all other brothers in arms that have stood up to defend Biafra land and are in alliance with the Biafra government. May God bless all of you who have worked assiduously to make sure that we have achieved what we have achieved today. Remember that the struggle for Biafra has gained a very powerful global attention, irrespective of the fact that most of the multinational news or channels or houses are not talking about Biafra. Doesn't mean the world leaders are not getting the direct message from different channels of what is going on in Biafra. We will continue to make tougher decisions to create this awareness that will go to the right people that needed to know what is going on in Nigeria. And remember, your freedom lies in your hand. And what has not happened before, you make it happen, and it becomes your history. From here, from me, is good evening, and may God bless you all. Good night.